The SM Media Podcast Network. Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of SM Media's Countdown to Cheltenham 2026. I'm Scott McPike. It is a pleasure to be your host as always, and it is always a delight to be joined by from the Scottish Daily Mail, the one and only Calum McClurkin. Calum, I've got a fence about to come down. I'm full of the cold. Sort of tells you we're in the middle of December, doesn't it?
Yeah, winter's here, definitely, and a nice, decent enough weekend of racing. Another one to come. It's a wee bit kind of quiet in between now, the Christmas run up. Like your better horses will be left to learn now, but starting to see some proper ones kind of come out, decent performances, and again, yeah, it's quite well backed up. And this time, it's really the champion chase of it, and it's taking a big shake up.
Yes, well, we'll get into the champion chase over the weekend, and there's another race tonight. I'd imagine we'll give an idea where the champion chase market is at. We'll kind of pivot to the start towards a kind of champion hurdle champion hurdle market, because Nicky Henderson obviously had a busy weekend in terms of two horses that run, but it was probably the two horses that didn't run that got a bit of attention as well. He was very, very vocal that Sergino, we would likely see him at Christmas, but he did mention both the Desert Orchid and the Christmas Hurdle. He seems to be aiming them towards one or the other, but we probably won't know. And are you in the kind of camp of 92 for a champion hurdle's good value, when we don't know if he's going to even go over hurdles?
No. I mean, I think it's a possibility. I think the Christmas hurdle looks likely now. I mean, it looks like the likely route to go. I mean, it might just be having Golden Ace. I mean, the new Lions going in the International Hurdle. Constitution Hill's going to skip it. So, I mean, there's not really a lot of suitability there in Willie Mullins. I might send one of them over, but Lossiemouth, again, more likely to stay at home now, I would think, than go over. So, It might be Amsterdam again. Might be something like that. Yeah, and to me, I mean, for a horse that's come back from serious injury, there's no way he can take short prices about him for a Cheltenham Festival, over any discipline, particularly when it's up in the air. It's just is it just going to be one run over hurdles and then back to fences, or is it going to be we'll just stick with this rest of the half season over hurdles? I mean, the way he jumped to his fencing debut, it seems unthinkable to me that you'd go back that way for hurdles. But he's still young enough. There's a gap in that market clearly, and he might be good enough to go there and exploit it. It might be easier for him for that start of the season because he's come back from a serious incident. So, no, I think you just have to sit there and suffer. I mean, yeah, some clever people took chances at 10, 12, didn't they, before the fight in fifth, really kind of anticipating that. But it's still yet to go full circle, and you don't really know what his well-being is at all. So you can't take 92 champ hurdle when you're guessing about horses' well-being.
Yeah, the other thing is, I have of the opinion that if he's anywhere close to what he was in the fighting fifth, he would win the champion hurdle. But again, what you saw at Kempton a year ago, the chasing debut, it'd be very, very difficult to go back over hurdles and then go chasing. There's still time he can do it. There's absolutely no issue. The other thing that I think is maybe going under the radar here is, if he was to line up in a Desert Orchid, he would likely be carrying 11 stone 12. Was that a good situation to put a horse in after such a bad injury? Because that's what they would probably have to do.
Bad injury and a prolonged recovery.
Yeah.
And no, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't, and certainly not in quick ground. And I think that's what Nicky Henderson's alluding to here.
Yeah.
If Kempton, in the long range weather forecast, it does look pretty wet. So, I mean, it might be good to soft, but I just think you want at least a less demanding kind of starting point, and I think that's what you get over hurdles, particularly when the 2 mile division over hurdles is really, really thin in the ground in Britain. I mean, you're only going to get maybe 3 or 4 good ones turn up in the Christmas hurdle anyway. So you can kind of have a starting point and then go from there. I think the big thing for me is no one has got any clue how well he's going to
Mm.
take to go on track. He's just come back to really doing light schooling work, really, and he's already really really short. And you're not guaranteed what path he's going to go at all yet. Seems hurdles seems now the percentage call for the rest of the season, but it could easily change, and his situation could easily change. He didn't get there last year. It could easily happen again. Do you want to take 92 about that? I wouldn't, because Lossiemouth would probably turn up now as well. That'd be a decent marker to kind of beat now. I mean, maybe more horses will fancy it rather than running away as well. So no, it wouldn't be for me at all.
Okay. Well, we've obviously been told Constitution Hill isn't going at Christmas. A new line is being aimed at the international hurdle. So the Christmas hurdle.
How much shorter could he be if he wins by 5 lengths or so? I mean,
Yeah.
I would rather kind of see him all well and good bouncing over his hills and take 5-2.
Mhm.
I just think you've got to such a long setback and a significant one. You need to see the horse run.
Yeah, it's kind of just leaving it as well. There's so much questions over the Christmas period that we'll no doubt cover in later shows to come. We'll go into the kind of weekend's action. We'll start with the kind of big races. We've got four performances each we're going to talk about because it was such a packed weekend. We'll start with Aintree. We'll go to the Beecher first, and we'll go to Twig winning for Ben Paul and beat Master Van Gogh in a really good finish. Couple of horses in here that we can discuss, but Twig, very, very interesting horse, the way he's done this off 143. Ben Paulin is another one who kind of picks his horses out really, really well. And this horse was quite easy to back. It was 10th in a Grand National, then went on to win at Sandown last month, and has followed it up here, beating a good horse in Mr. Vango.
Two horses. It's kind of like this is the old Grand National, really.
Mm-hmm.
Two horses that slug it out in soft ground and it becomes stamina based. They're not going to win a Grand National.
No.
That's why they put a 500 grand bonus for it if you win that and get the Grand National, because they don't have the requisite class to do so, and they don't have the winter conditions, and that's what they need. So the two kind of very good, experienced, soft ground staying horses that have fought it out. It was a good finish. I don't think it will be an important piece of form going forward in the spring.
Okay, a couple of horses. We kind of mentioned Gala de la Tour was retired after pulling up, finishing fourth lame. And I thought I picked Bill Baxter. I thought Bill Baxter ran a good race. Finished sixth. I think he'll come on for it. Any horses in this you kind of took away from it?
No.
Nothing. Okay. Right, we'll move into the kind of big grade ones at Sandown. We'll go to the Henry VIII. It was won very impressively by Lulamba. Now into 3-1 for the Arkle. There was a lot of doubt going in, like what was he as flashy as maybe what we saw from other horses across the sea. I text you immediately after this. I thought this was brilliant. Really enjoyed this performance.
Fantastic. No, I really like this horse. This is a really good horse. And he proved he's quick enough for an Arkle, really. That's what Nicky Henderson said afterwards. And yeah, I mean, the first two fences took a bit of time to warm up. He's entitled to do that. He's only a 4-year-old, remember. And then he made a big sweeping mid-race move down the outside, and he stamped his class on it. And he imposed himself as the graded horse in that race. He did it very quickly. What I did like was him hurtling to two out,
Mm-hmm.
nailing it, and then being a bit flashy at the last. There's a bit of flamboyance there and flair,
Mm-hmm.
and he's talented. Unlike a horse that we'll talk about later, when he gets short, he's clever enough and quick away to get away with it and not
Mm-hmm.
lose momentum. And when he's long, he's got tons and tons of scope. He's only going to get better. Um, and I think he's the best 2 mile novice at the moment.
Okay. What I liked about it was he's jumping. He made a wee bit of a not a mistake, but he was a bit nervy at the first, and then his jumping just seemed to get better after every fence. I think as well, he's 4 year old. We did like him last season. I think again he was very, very unlucky not to win the triumph and back to up at Punchestown. It was to say it was the confidence, I think, as well, just the kind of confidence all day. He went off 2-5. It was a really, really good performance. And at the moment, Arkle wise, I think he is probably the value because he might might even go out if Kopek de Board was to win impressively. I do think we're in for another John Bonnell Fabiolo situation.
Well, I think Kopek de Board, out of all the three beginners, Chase's efforts the best out of the three. The improvement from the beginner's chase to a graded race like that from Lulamba has put him in front in my eyes. And Romeo Coolio would be second in that regard. So what Kopek de Board needs to do is do a similar step up and regain that position again. Now, the market, I don't think, has re-evaluated that yet. I want to see Kopek de Board do it under a bit of graded pressure. Now, be aware, it was a reasonably well-experienced mid-140s horse now. Went second to July Flower. And what they did was, our best chance of beating Lulamba is going out there fast early and putting under pressure. Now, the first one or two fences was a bit of a culture shock. After that, it was over. It was over by halfway, this. He outclassed them. And there was still kind of moments it was a bit raw and a bit potential-wise and, you know, a bit clumsy and kind of running through, but he was quick enough and clever enough to get away from it all the time. And, you know, there's so much more to come. That's what it gave me. And the time was very, very, very favourable as well in regards to Etait Top's performance. So, I mean, that looks good as well. I was really impressed by him. It's going to get tougher down the line when he loses his allowance. But, you know, another run in like the Kingmaker and then to the Arkle. You know, I think he's got a really, really good chance. I think he's clever. I think he's a horse that can, when something kind of goes wrong in a race, he already looks able to overcome it at such a young age. And, you know, there were a couple of good ones in there. The mid-140s horses, like experienced handicappers.
And are they potential players at
Notchers,
Cheltenham?
not top notchers, but, you know, good horses that might kind of be handicappers down the line for spring as well. So, and he put them away with minimal fuss, and he outgunned them and outclassed them. You know, he's a brute of a horse, so he's really powerful. You know, he's not too dissimilar sexual of like should have won the Triumph last year. He's kind of no power packed horse. You know, a lot of potential, like, you know, like a where like really imposing, but, you know, he's technically there.
Yeah, Be Aware and Lump Sum might be potential Grand Annual players, but we'll maybe talk about that later on. Let's go to the Tingle Creek, where Ali de Toms came over, won this very, very well. Similar to Lulamba, just like the way he took his fences. We'll touch on the champion chase market here because we'll maybe cover the other race of the weekend that had an influence in this race. Ali de Toms, I think he's maybe a horse we've underrated, but what I think is the big difference here is Paul Townend. I think it's just made a big difference in this horse. Not to discredit Danny Mullins, but I think there's a confidence in the jockey, and I think he's just able to iron them out. I actually think he's went up in terms of Cheltenham estimation after this on Saturday.
Absolutely, yeah, that was a career best by some distance, I thought. And I mean, it was a celebration chase all over again, really. You know, I mean, John Bond went out in front, and he's just a sitting duck because he's a quicker horse, and you're just setting it up for him, really. But he scooted up the inside three out quite quickly, cleanly, and put the race to bed in a matter of strides, and that takes a high class horse to just do that. You know, put the race to bed. He was good in the Colonial Oil. That was a good performance in the clock. He's versatile, 2.5 to 2. You know, he likes Sandown, and yeah, he's a very, very tough horse. Cheltenham asks a different question probably because, you know, of his old record there, but, you know, he might just be a reformed model after his break. You know, when he did bump into kind of two good horses in the Arkle in behind stablemate Gaelic Warrior and found the 50. So I mean, being third there is no real slight on him. And he made a bad early mistake that day and could never really get into it. He was in the back foot. So you could argue that he's a reform model in that performance. And if the champion chase was at Sandown, you could argue that it was a bit shorter. But it isn't. And, you know, he has underperformed there in three festivals, really, on figures. So he's a tough little grey. I think he's surprising Willie Mullins himself by the way he keeps improving. You know, he's not a big horse.
No.
And he needs to be accurate. And he really is. But I think that's probably the best 2 mile open chase performance I've seen since Energamine won the champion chase on figures. The question is the track really around them?
Yeah, I don't think there's any worry about the horse. I think it's more kind of Willie acted Cheltenham this time round. As I say, like Townend might provide a difference because Townend is definitely going to ride them now. Like there's nothing coming through the Mullins yard, and we'll get into that in a minute. But Load of Sud, I think his ceiling was
Well,
this.
I kind of alluded it to last week. I thought he was the worst of the three on the
Yeah.
day because he gives that vibe to me that he needs to be best run fresh. And that's what Dan Skelton said afterwards. He
Mm-hmm.
said, we're going to leave him alone until the champion chase and freshen up. So, I mean, he could come back to that slower form and all of a sudden be a player again each way, if they do that, because that's what it felt like to me. They had him hard fit that day to beat John Bon, and John Bon had him in against and John Bon fitter to reverse the form, which he duly did. But Elected Tom was far too good for both of them, and it probably would be again, no matter where they are, I would think.
John Bon, again, like nothing. Somebody was having a conversation with us the other day, and they said he's had a far better career than a lot of horses that were kind of around him that were potentially more flashier. Like the problem with it though is that you can tell when a horse has reached the high point, and it is just a case of it goes down, but it goes down gradually, but there's still a wee bit of consistency. I would be personally be going up and trip. I wouldn't be going straight up to like a King George, but I would be looking at an Ascot chase and maybe going the kind of Shishkin route as opposed to going straight up to a King George. I think that would be a crazy decision. But I think he's reached his peak at 2 miles.
Yeah, no, it's again, as I alluded to, he's kind of going the way of Shishkin and Altior's of old, isn't he? Where he needs a bit further nowadays. It was a much better run. His cheek pieces sharpened him up, and he jumped well up front. He was just outgunned and outsmarted by a very, very good performer, and that's it's no slight because he pulled away from Load of Sud still down the home straight. So yeah, I think 2.5 with the switch to lies. It's just whether he's on the downgrade anyway, and whether that's going to mitigate it because you're going into a 2.5 mile division that's pretty hot anyway. Django Bay could either come back 2.5 or go up and trip after the King George, and you're kind of going. He's kind of now a kind of horses to fortune the way the cards fall after Christmas for him, really. Ascot Chase looks sensible, doesn't it? He's got Ascot form. It's the obvious spot for those kind of like to kind of stay in Grade 1 company and trial it. So yeah, we'll see what he do. He's still high. I mean, he still reached 160s, something like that. I don't think he quite did it the weekend, but yeah, he's got a bit to prove. But he's been around for a long, long time now, and he's been pretty consistent throughout. So yeah, he's had a very good career. It's still get there, maybe the odd pot, but it might be a struggle for him now.
Right, we'll touch on the Halliway. We obviously found a 50 winning for Gordon Elliott. It was a great day for Gordon Elliott at Cork, and again, his horses are flying at the moment. No disrespect to Found a 50, but I think the horse we're going to talk about a bit here is Masborough. He did what he did at Cheltenham in a different way, jumped left. I think it's remarkable he only finished a length and a half back, considering how many mistakes he made. Like it's the engine is there, it's just putting it all together and jumping the fences. That is the issue here with him.
Absolutely. Bit surprised by the widespread negativity of him. I don't think his jumping is terrible.
He gets a few right. He just makes a few big mistakes.
Quite a few right, I think. Yeah. I think he gets a bit harsh treatment in that, particularly for a 5-year-old. Just think that Arkle scar is in punters' minds as well as his mind in that regard. So I think he's got a bit of an unfair reputation there, but there's no doubt it's an issue. Cork being a tight right-handed track, probably an unsuitable starting point. And maybe the fact that Willie Mullins added his disappointment to things kind of amplified it, and maybe a lot of people think that he's supposed to be this kind of second coming early doors and what he did in the Triumph and things like that. Like he got away at Punchestown because he was beating novices that were over the hill, but he started the race fine. the first mile was reasonably fine, and then there's these 3 fences round the back that you have to take relatively sharpish regardless, and because he come up quickly, that's where he jumps left because it's more pronounced.
It wasn't York Hill, but it was like still left enough to lose a stride
and
or
it
two.
also wasn't as dramatic as Punchestown, but he's running down and still jumping them fine and still staying in front. But that's when you've got found the 50 who's a he's won Group 1s and race fit and 160, 16, the low 160s operator, hard fit in the day, a yard in form, and he's given him £4 as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then just when a bit of a pressure's applied, I mean, soft enough, when a bit of pressure applied, the mistakes creep in a bit. He leaves his back legs in fences. When he gets in tight, he just ploughs through them, so he doesn't really correct himself. Unlike Lulamba, when they meet it short, if he meets it in a stride, he's fine.
Mm-hmm.
If he meets it long and commits, he's fine. Sometimes he just trails his back legs through it. And if he's short, he just ploughs through it. And that's what he did. And it's the second last again. And it's the second last. And if you look at not one for times and sectionals, but if you looked at the wee speed clock on the left, that's when they were quickening. That's when he's quickening, he meets it wrong, so it was a mistake. And then the last, he's kind of overcompensated by diving through it again. So I think it's just because it's coming too quickly for him at 2 miles. I think he is a Ryanair horse, and I've always insisted that he's a Ryanair horse. He needs further. To my mind, he's not a champion chaser. You could see this. You could actually see him winning it in Leopardstown fine because it's a galloping track and there's space there. Mm-hmm. And then that'll urge him to go the champion chase route, and that second last will give him. I mean, you can just see that. You can just see Arkle all over again.
Well,
so you can just see him hurtling it again. I mean, looks left. He's not really giving Mark Walsh help at all when he approaches his fences either. He's veering at it and having a look around. I think 2 things that could help him. I think going up and tripping, obviously going left-handed is the first one. But I think just committing him. Yeah. Mark Walsh likes to sit. It's not really his style. He likes to. I think Kevin Blake alluded to this in his blog. Mark Walsh is a very smooth rider. Likes to sit. I think you need to commit and make the mind up for him a little bit more and be aggressive on him. Because when he meets it and wings it, it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. I think just go and commit him or back trip and find a race that's got truer pace and kind of let him learn in behind a little bit more. And you might see him kind of switch on a bit more off a truer pace. So I think there's a conundrum there. And a lot of it's kind of his jumping technique and schooling. Yeah, that could help. But I think, a better race scenario would definitely help him as well. So, and he's still producing big numbers despite doing this. So that's why you can't rule him out for anything.
Well, he's kind of priced as if they are going to go for the Grade 1 at Christmas, and he's second. Marine National's 2-1, Masborough's 9-4. Surprisingly, I thought he would go out a fair bit for this, but you can still get around 6-1 for a champion chase. But I think it'd be a big question mark. I think with what we saw last year, I think 6-1 is very, very short. But as you say, like the 2 times he's made mistakes, he's still only beaten. I mean, potentially if he'd won the Arkle, that would have been one of the greatest wins we'd have seen, and it would have been the same here.
And that Arkle form's actually working out.
It's working out great, yeah.
And that's taken out, and again he almost rallied again towards found the 50. Particularly only kind of backed out of the last 100 yards, but he did try and rally as well. The engine's enormous. He can jump them when he meets them right. It's definitely not. It's not some sort of disaster movie. This, it's an easily retrievable situation by ironing things out. He's still young. He's still going to make these mistakes. He alluded to that. And maybe he's kind of a victim of being too forward for his own good by winning a triumph kind of after just having one run. Where he kind of looked like a big rangy shot, looked into what he was doing then, but got away with it because he's got that much raw ability. And I think Williamons will be able to harness it. But the issue is he's got so many horses, and the owner has got so many horses. I mean, the owner, to me, JP McManus has got 4 Ryanair horses. That's the issue now. I mean, John Bonner run it 2.5. Fact to File 2.5 miler. Masborough 2.5 miler. And if Jaguar bolts up in the Paddy Power Gold Cup, he's a 2.5 miler.
Yeah.
So I mean, how do you split? What are you going to do? That's the issue. If you get all these kind of, and he's been pigeonholed as a champion chaser at the moment, and it's unsuitable for him. Like it would be unsuitable for Fact to File. and now John Bond.
I saw
That's
people,
different.
I saw people
What are
saying,
you going
well,
to do about it? If you've got all these horses in one area, this is the conundrum we're going to get.
yeah. I saw people saying as well, well, put Fact to File down. We saw it punch us down. That's not going to work. Just leave that the way it is. But you're keeping the face for Masborough then. So you're.
He's an absolute high class animal. When he makes it right, he's fine. He could win a champion chase if he makes that second last in the right stride. He could do it. He could overcome it. But I just think he'd be a lot more comfortable on the new course, up and trip, where he's got a bit more time between. He's got more jumping to do, but his jumping's fine if he's got the time to kind of sort his mind out and approach it right. And I think it's a bit more forceful riding to be making more decisive as well would help. So, but he's clocking up numbers that are he's only a few pounds off the LAT
No,
Thompson
yeah,
Marine Nationals world anyway. What he's doing,
yeah.
if he could put it all together, he could be an old timer.
Absolutely. Well, it seems we're keeping the faith with Masborough. Right, we're going to go into we're going to do 4 performances this week. Well, there's a few horses I want to talk about. I think you'll maybe be okay with me starting here because I'm not necessarily saying this is one of my performances, but I wanted to get your thoughts. What do we think of My Daddy Paddy?
Yeah, well, he's very good. I mean, visually very, very good. And sets a tentative standard, but his price at the top of the Supreme market is beyond silly. Beyond silly. I mean, you could pluck 5 or 6 that are kind of in a similar bracket to him right now.
I think we saw 3 this weekend who have beat better horses than he has, and
yeah.
5
They've
times the
definitely
price.
beat them, but I mean, they do it at his style. The way he loomed up and the way he attacked the last and sauntered away, quickened away quite nicely without being overly extended, suggests that he is a high class. He is a high class sort, but he's a long way to go to be a bona fide 5-1 for a Supreme. And that's a bit silly, particularly when the vast majority of the Irish, I think, have probably not fired any bullet of significance yet. And there's been a couple of decent Brits as well that have ran okay, so that are not a million miles away from it that do have potential and have probably ran in better races.
It's as if it's the Willie Mullins factor, but do you want to have a guess how many placed horses Dan Skelton has had in the Supreme since 2016?
No, I mean not a lot, maybe one.
He's had no placed horses. Do you know how many runners he's had in a Supreme since 2016?
Not a lot either, I would think.
One, and it was in 2016. So it's not as if Willie. You can understand if he was trained by Willie Mullins, you could understand this, right? You could understand going to 5
he's
to 1.
just only getting these kind of caliber of horses now, isn't he?
It's not like
the new Lion last year, the Outlier. This is where he's beginning to get that type of horse. So historically, I wouldn't be worried about it too much. But he's doing what he's doing fine. You're getting a kind of second run in for extra experience. The Formby is going to reveal a lot more.
I think the Formby could be a very good race. Yeah,
it will be a very good race. Gordon Elliott might send one over, for instance, as a kind of marker as well. So, but yeah, visually it definitely looks apart. But he should be twice the price what he is.
Yeah, I think if he won a Formby and he was 5 to 1, I'd be like, right, okay, I understand that. What does he go if he wins the Formby impressively? You can't put him into 5 to 2, can you? Because we've not seen Willie's. We've not. I mean, we've maybe seen a couple of Willie's fire, but not. I think there's still maybe a few to come.
Definitely not in the Supreme. I think his kind of Supreme ones will definitely come out around Christmas time, rather than now. So, but there isn't anything obvious screaming out there yet. And bookmakers obviously don't want to take him on. People like him, and he was highly touted at the start of the season by the yard as their kind of number one. And what he's doing, he's probably already factoring in potential. I mean, I mark my horses ridiculously low because it helps my betting, but he's probably 140ish. He's pushing that. I think he's got a mark of 130s already or something like that. So he's better than that. There's a lot of potential there. So I mean, but you're looking for 150 in a normal Supreme. He's been 15, 20 pounds to prove in that, and to be running a graded race for a start. So it's just been kind of like early sparring for novices at the moment. You can't really tell unless you've got a strong gut feeling about it. And the gut feeling is that he is going to be very good, but he'll go there and he'll probably take his chance, and he'll probably be definitely one of the top 3 British prospects in it, and he'll have his chance. But he's, in terms of what he's beaten, I mean, the third was rated 120. If you factor in 120, then he's running 132.
Yeah.
And I don't think the third really ran his race too well. He could have set it up for the other. So, I mean, he couldn't really rate it any higher than that numerically. But, I mean, obviously, he's like a stone better than that anyway, factored in. So, it could go one of two ways. You don't know what he could do off the bridle as well, because he's not been asked that question, like quite a few of them have. So, I mean, that's the beauty of it. It's all weighing about potential, and the vast majority seem to weigh up that he's got the most at the moment.
Okay, so My Daddy Paddy is your 5-1 favourite for the Supreme. What was your performance of the weekend? What caught your eye?
I actually thought it's quite an underrated performance. I thought Solver was really good.
Okay.
In the Escher. Step out to 3 miles, touch of soft ground. Frank in that Lulamba form from the beginner's chase, where he was third and boxed on quite short. And Gary and Josh Muriart had a very good weekend. Obviously going to be quite forward and fit, but a bit of soft ground, 3 miles, stiff test. Dorian Quest tried to go again from the front, and he was picked up easily by a classier horse. And a horse, I think that was the best staying chase performance in Britain so far.
Yeah.
I think he's better than Wendigo. With his conditions, Kempton might not suit him, and soft ground might be important to him, but he's a good stayer.
Mm-hmm.
And he did it really well. Loomed large and put away a field. Quebec was disappointing again. I think that horse has got wind problems.
Yeah.
He's already had 2 wind ups. Just can't see out a race.
Bale did a couple as well.
Can't see out a race for love of the money. But Dorian Quest went out there and replicate those tactics, but it didn't work with a classy horse like that and behind them. And he was 147 rated as a handicap hurdler, and I think he kind of got to that level as a novice chaser. And to me, that's enough at the moment to be ahead of the game as a leading novice staying chaser in Britain. And I thought it was a really good performance, and he's probably got a bit more to come.
Yeah, I'm going to go for the race before that. And Sandown, I thought No Drama this end again showed he looks a star. Very, very different performance to what we saw at Cheltenham. He got one wrong at the 5th. It was a bit erratic at it, but he got it really well. And then when he was just asked a question, Cobden just gave him a wee squeeze, and that was it. He was away. I think that's a good field. I think he's 11-2 for the turners. We'll likely see him in the Challow. I think he might scare a lot of horses off in the Challow. I think he's a very, very good horse for Paul Nicholls. Probably the best Nicholls has had in terms of the most exciting. Probably, I think I'm not going to go the Denman route, but certainly Brave Man's Game. I think he's the best we've seen since Brave Man's Game in terms of excitement.
Yeah, the Brave Man's Game and kind of Hermes Allen kind of category probably at the moment. And he looked quick enough. He looks quick enough for a turners. I thought that was a woeful grade 2.
Okay.
A simply woeful race for the grade. It was there for the. I don't think he needed to improve that much, if at all, from his Cheltenham effort to win that. But he did it in a style that was very, very impressive. That's all we can do, is put them away really easily, and he did that. And he puts races to bed quite quickly. He travels very comfortably. He can quicken. He can stay, and he's been entitled. He's definitely entitled to be Turner's favourite. And there's a lot more to come, potential-wise, because he's not really been asked a proper question yet. But he's thoroughly professional, and visually it was excellent. The opposition for the grade, I think, was Deporo. I think that's why he went there. And it was banker material stuff.
49, yeah.
And the Challow might be a bit tougher, but I don't think there's much opposition.
I don't think there is. I was looking
there either.
yeah.
And I think that's why he's clearly. He's very comfortably clear at the moment. Very hard to see him being not the best novice hurdler in Britain this season. Right now, I mean, I think he's comfortably. I'm a miserable marker of horses, but 135 easily. But, I mean, you could your normal average could rate around £10 a stone.
Yeah, I think there's a PP next to that, isn't there? He's capable of much
better. There's a plus. There's a plus. There's a plus, definitely a plus sign on it, not a minus sign. There's definitely a lot more to come, but yeah, he's meeting the base mark quite well, but he was entitled to take that out because that was a bad race for the grey.
Well, let's go into your second performance. What else caught your eye?
I like Taurus Bay up at
Yeah,
Aintree. Another one for Ben Polliard and Harry Redknapp.
he picks them out. He knows what he's a good. Looks a good
He has a
owner.
few, you know, he's definitely the right trainer, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Picked off Captain Hugo quite well. I did quite fancy him to turn him over, and he just did it quite easily. And again, he's another one that probably go to the form now after
yeah,
that. Just got a lot of potential, like the way he did it. He'd probably stay further, but they didn't go quick, and he was able to show a decent turn of foot that day. Okay, it was only a 3 runner kind of race, but you know he took it out really stylishly, and I think he's graded class. I really do. I mean, what's the difference between what he achieved to my daddy Paddy? Really, you know, on the bare figure, not a lot. You know, and you could see that with kind of other horses that are 20, 25 to 1. You know, Hurricane Pat as well, another
mm-hmm.
one, you know, probably didn't make the grade this weekend, but, you know, turning over Sober Glory was really
Would you
disappointing.
forgive Sober Glory? I thought there may be something wrong there.
I think you could always forgive a novice a bad
Yeah,
run. I think you can forgive it once, twice is harder, but I think once you can. I think the yard, Johnson White yard, like kind of saw with the one that Taurus Bay beat, they've dipped slightly in the week as well. So there's kind of that dip of form. They really start the season really hot. So there's probably been a little bit of dip there. It's disappointing if they found anything there. It definitely dents his hopes really. But you know, novices they can get back on track. And I think he can forgive him one bad run. I think he actually challenged way too wide on the outside where the Hurricane Pat just kind of nipped in. But and Taurus Bay did it really well up at Aintree and you know, there's you know, upon Tweed's another decent novice. Nicky Henson who won at Newbury last week. You know, there's a few that are not too bad. You know, not just with my daddy Paddy. So you know, there's 3 or 4 that could kind of throw their hat into the ring at the moment.
yeah. I'm going to stick with the Moors. I really thought Mac Toad was very impressive in the juvenile hurdle into about 12 to 1
Mm-hmm.
for the triumph. Thought this was very, very good. Very polished. What I like about a juvenile is he didn't look very keen. Had a good run in France, obviously back in May, which I think the second of that was placed in a triumph. The French triumph hurdles we'll maybe touch on later because there's another wee line of form I want to go to. But I think this was very, very good. The immediate comparison is Goshen. He looks a lot more, not a lot smarter than Goshen, but he certainly looks a lot more stable than Goshen. And I think he's maybe probably the best we've seen of the British in the juvenile division so far.
Probably, yeah. It's whether this kind of Chepso race comes too soon for him a little bit, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah, he clipped a few, and he just the way he kind of sauntered away from him was really good from from two horses and from the Paul Nicholls and Dan Skelton yard that were unfancied either. But yeah, I backed the Moors blind on the Friday, and I
Mm-hmm.
did really well out of it. And that was one of the 3 winners the week, and yeah, they just targeted it quite well. Knew they were going to put a good one in there. 12 to 1 for Triumph. That's a bit short because it's not. No, Man's 2 and Narciso Haas did a lot more than that.
Okay. But Mac Toad I thought was very good. Let's go to your third performance, Calum.
The performance had to be Dr. Steinberg
Okay.
in that stairs race. Yeah, a couple of elements maybe disappointing a little bit, but the way he could have put it to bed was nice. His progressing made all hit the line quite well, and then when there was maybe a kind of minor threat, he then went up and picked up again. So it's kind of top brackets there for Willie Mullins. Maybe not, but you know, it was a decent marker, and you can see why it's kind of 14, 16s for the Bartlett. I thought he kind of did it really well. Navan race tends to kind of throw up a decent one, but maybe the Elliot's underperformed a little bit, so it could be. So I think you can nitpick it and pin it down slightly, but he keeps progressing and doing it quite nicely, and I think you'll probably find a kind of decent graded race down the line Christmas, and I think he'd probably go to that kind of 2 mile 6 race at DRF at some point, probably to kind of see where his true level is. Others might progress past him a little bit, but you know the way he's doing it was impressive, and stamina is definitely a strong suit when making all that kind of really heavy ground that weekend.
Yeah, like, there was a couple in here like Port Authority ran bad, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's maybe one of a one of a few who could be targeted for the last race on the Friday. I thought the Devil Uno again, like that was a good marker. He beat good horses here actually, and a lot of Willies were kind of in and out all week. It's kind of roughly that kind of stage of the season. So I think if he's won, the horses that are winning, I think are capable of better, and I think he's actually a player in a battle.
I think he would be. He's got that kind of style, hasn't he, where he just gallops and does it with minimal fuss. Whether he's a class, maybe not, probably not. But again, he's another one there that's kind of set a decent little level, and you can see why he's kind of near the top of the market for it. And the one that Elliot didn't run would be Classical Creek. I think that might be his best Bartlett hope, and I thought he would be the most interesting one for that. But he didn't run with him, so I think he might be the one down the line from Contra that I would be kind of keeping an eye on for that race.
Yeah, still a few horses I kind of want to talk about that maybe we'll kind of save.
There was a lot. There was a lot of good performances. I mean, Jello was good, and the Peterborough Chase. Carla Conti was good. Yeah, plenty of them.
She's very, very likeable, isn't she?
I really liked her as a juvenile, and she kind of came out quickly. And she was a sharp kind of juvenile hurdle, and she had a couple early runs. It's just whether she can back that up in the spring. I don't think she can. I think 10-1 for a Mare's Chase is short, really short. I think you're just catching them. I remember she beat Cargies last year.
Yeah,
by surprise, and it didn't really work out till spring. So I think she's improved chaser, and I think she's kind of mid 140s, high 140s at the moment. That's putting her in the bracket, and she can keep improving. But I don't think she's a Cheltenham Festival player herself. You put away Cargies quite well though.
Yeah, Cutler Wallen's horses just quickly. Simbaco, I thought was very, very good. He's into about kind of 16 for the Supreme. He had some kind of good French form. He finished, probably should have beat a horse that was second in the French Triumph hurdle. So that, again, there's a lot to like about him. I think he could be one that could go under the radar. Predators Gold. It was nice to see him back. I think that race was a bit of a mess. Like Slade Steele's just not a chaser. Wingmen, I think already I'm like, you're being targeted at something else, but I don't know if it's a Cheltenham race. Like he's going to win a pot of some kind, and if we ever seen a second in a Derby win a maiden hurdle, I can't think of anything. I can't think of a horse being second in a Derby winning a maiden hurdle.
No, the last time something like kind of recent like that happened, you'd probably have the Irish Derby win a high definition, wasn't it, or something like that. That took high rank hurdles, but no, and the way he actually battled back was pretty impressive, ambiente friendly, so it didn't quite win.
Yeah, there's a lot to like this week. Last week. We'll now get into what's happening this week, and we're going to Cheltenham for the racing on Friday. A couple of races to talk about on Friday. We have, first of all, the Turners Handicap Chase, which is a far better name than it was last year. Do you remember the name of it last year?
No.
Was the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 Handicap Chase, so it's a better name than
there's not an appropriate movie coming out.
There isn't, no. And Turners, again, fair play to Turners for stepping in here. And looks a good race. Some good horses turning up here by the looks of it. We don't have declarations as of yet, but Heracles Westwood is 7-2. Lahon Press, good to see him back here. It looks like he's going to take his chance off 12 stone. The Doyen Chief, you've got King Turgeon, Henry's Friend, the short go. Last year's winner, King Turgeon, for me, I think he's got a good chance here. He's only in here off £2 higher than he was 12 months ago. I thought he ran okay last time. Obviously, he's one fixed in the kind of break, but ran well. I think he's capable of better than what he's shown. I think the pipes are in a bit of a good run at the moment, and I think he's probably the one I would go with here.
Yeah, has a chance. Maybe like to see the ground dry up a tad for him.
Yeah.
And that session form didn't work out in the Beecher. Should worry me slightly. I think Heracles West would be difficult to beat here. If you've got Sean Bowen booked to do 9 stone 7 at the moment, that seems significant to me. Whether he can do it is a thing. It's so difficult to say. So you've got a horse in at 162, and then run up at 127, and there's only 11. It really it's very lopsided in the weight. So
weird, isn't it?
The confirmations you need to really look at quite closely. The Doyen Chief was one of those that was given no chance the last day. Henry's Friend is solid and reliable for the Ben Pong team that are going great guns, and I think he probably needs to win this, kind of get into the Grand National a little bit. You know, you need to kind of hit the 150 mark to get into that race. Yeah, I wouldn't be nailing my colours into the mast to anything at the moment for this. I mean, I think Heracles Westwood's probably the best handicap, but again, you can't play until you see kind of those weights definitely materialise.
Right, 3 o'clock. We've got my first look at the cross country fences. It's shown here good ground, which again is quite interesting. I think you maybe know where I'm going here, and I'm going to keep backing him until he wins a race. The last time he won a race was 2019. He's 0 for 16 over fences. Mr. Coffee's day is going to come eventually, and I think 142. He's certainly going to run his race. His consistency, it's just kind of put his head in front. I think 8 to 1 is a good each way price, and hopefully he goes the distance this time. I'm going to keep backing him until he wins because I'm going to keep jumping that hill until I get there.
This is an each way price, and you could get a place money, I suppose.
I think if it was 4 to 1, I wouldn't touch him, but I think eights, he's still, you can maybe get something back for him.
Yeah, I think they had to cancel it in November, didn't they? Because the
Yeah,
ground was too hard, and now they've had so much rain that it's now good ground. So I mean, let's be honest, like the festival last year, it's anyone's guess what the ground is there,
yeah.
and it's anyone's guess who's going to be off and who's not. Now it's a handicap, and if I had a dog, I would go out and walk it for this because I'm not interested.
Okay, anything you like?
The only horse of interest. I mean, final orders. If he takes to this,
Nah.
could be a kind of good Cromwell horse because 138 is doable. He was third at that Punchestown race that Desert House won, and he seems to be the one that's left everyone up. So I mean, in terms of the festival going forward, final orders is interesting. See if he runs. Vanilli as well would be. Bustleton is more interesting, better ground, but it's the least exciting race of the weekend.
Anything you like? Obviously, on Friday we've got the Veterans Chase at 225. You like Eldorado Allen in there, a good form line with Mister Coffee, and like in the kind of 115 as well. You've got a decent handicap, although it's a decent handed competitive racing on Friday, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not as good as November meeting and not as good
No.
as October's meeting, but and you know this is just like they're all kind of 2.5 mile handicap chases, the
Mm-hmm.
Friday and Saturday, and have a veterans one. I think Eldorado Allen probably wins again, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's a
I
lovely
think
horse.
he's a
Yeah.
little bit. I think he's a little bit better than kind of veteran standard. You know, I think he's still got that kind of touch old back class. So I can see him winning again. As for the rest of the races, not much of opinion. Seeing Califit and Vol would be good
Mm-hmm.
in the second race, and I think there's good horses in the novice hurdle as well. Funnily enough, the two races that are not in ITV, I think, are actually the most interesting ones. I don't understand ITV's obsession with these. I mean, you see the same handicap every week. I mean, every single decent novice or triumph race, you know, at the front is just kind of stuck away, you know, as if they don't want to know. I don't get it. I just change it up for a little bit, God's sake.
Right, let's get into Saturday. We've got the December Gold Cup. Brilliant tribute by Cheltenham, obviously naming the race
Absolutely.
after the Hunt family fund, and hopefully they do get a turn. I think there's a silent auction at the weekend as well, so hopefully
Mhm.
they get something with that. Brilliant cause, obviously, were in John Hunt. I think I've always really liked him as a commentator, and obviously a remarkable man. And hopefully they get a wee turn this week. We've got a really good race here again. Jaguar at 9 to 2. Missed November. Looks like he's going to go here. He's jocked up with John Joe O'Neill on board. Holy Smoke, Vincenzo, Kim Rock, Colonel Harry, Will the Wise, Alridotto's in here as well. Jaguar, like you gave him a mention earlier on as a potential Ryanair horse. I would imagine you were saying that with this in mind.
Well, he's a horse that could has the ability to blow this out of the water and
Mm-hmm.
take it out, and he's the horse that's got the ability to be graded class coming out of this. Um, the yard's form is so in and out that it worries me that this is a
Yeah,
starting point because it's tough enough to do that with just no run under your belt. So that's difficult. But we took out that race at the festival suggested that he can go into bigger and better things. Now, Aroko looked like a horse that would do that, and
yeah.
it's not happened for one reason or the other, really. So whether it can be executed, and I think not having a run suggested it might not be. So I think it might be tricky for him. So I think they might have to wait. Um, Hold Holy Smoke and Vincenzo were second and third in that, and Panic Attacks advertised that form from
And
November.
Aimed at a Grand National. That was mentioned yesterday. Panic
Yes,
Attack.
from Mayor's Chase to Grand National, how these trainers change the pins. Holy Holy Smoke stays further, and if it was soft, I'd definitely be with him.
Okay.
I think he'd come on for it. I think he's very well handicapped without a doubt, and I think he'll get. Oh, I think he won't be given a held up ride because he'll utilise his stamina a bit more. I think he'd be more prominent, and I think he'd be given a decent sight. If Vincenzo he's going up the handicap now without winning, and now Dylan Johnson's lost his claim, so he's technically gone up another 3.
Yeah.
So I just wonder if he's going to be slightly weighted out of it, and I think Holy Smoke can turn that around with him. Kim Rock's an interesting flyer.
I thought, he was the one I looked at. Yeah, he caught my eye, actually.
Particularly when he ran the last day, because there was so much more to come potential-wise. And he's been kind of well tipped up. It's a tougher race up in grade though, and he's got to kind of handle it culture shock-wise. So I reluctantly overlooked him. I'd probably say with Holy Smoke. I think El Rodotto, if it dries, he's got a race in him off this mark. He's definitely capable. And Esperfecto ran much better than the finishing. Well, he's pulled up effort last day because he just needed the run, but he was bang there till he turned the hill and he just flattened out. So if he can improve for that fitness wise, then he's not out of it. So that's where I was thinking. But the top of the market, I was leaning towards a Skelton run up, and there'd be more sweet on him if it stayed soft.
Yeah, Kim Rock was an interesting runner there. I'm kind of with you in El Rodotto. I think he's potentially an angle if it dries up. But again, it's going to be interesting to see what the ground's like. Going into 225, we've got the handicap chase over 2 miles. You like to David's well in here for the Gordons. JPR1 is in here for the Tizzards. It's actually the other Tizzard horse, Triple Trade, I think, could be the interesting one here. 10-1 Tizzards are flying at the moment. And again, one last time out at Cheltenham in good fashion. He's went up £5 to 128. I think there's a lot to come, and I think he's probably the one I'm going to side with here. Probably Brendan Powell. Brendan Powell's dropped up to ride both, but I'd imagine he'll go with JPR1, but I think Triple Trade's the one I might go with here.
Yeah, I mean, that Cheltenham form from the last days is reasonable, puts him up there, and he's a nice each way price at Temps, isn't he? Mm-hmm. He might be a shade better over further if it dries out. Might be a slight concern. And this is a prize that goes to kind of good young horses coming up. And Liberty Hunter was 8, but definitely an upgrade, better than a handicapper. Sky Pirate won at Madara, Editor de Geet. These kind of horses can go and do really, really well. I thought Accelero was interesting for Gene Williams. It won really well the last day. I think 128 featherweight, 10-3 is fine. The Yard had a really good winner up at Kelso on the weekend. Saint Segal, who's kind of a similar kind of flag-bearing 2-miler type. I thought Eights was fair enough as a young 5-year-old, very much an upgrade. When Madara won it, for instance, horses kind of like that. And Madara was 4 when she won it, so I just think horses that ilk can do well and keep progressing and go past these, like the Gunsight Ridge at the top. Tornillo's kind of finishes second quite a lot. GPR1 for all his talents, pretty exposed over 153. Yeah. Country Mile could take a step forward, can't he? That's probably the big outlier. That's kind of the Skelton kind of handicap flying ointment, really. And David's Well's progressive, and you can see why he's favourite. But I thought Accelero was the most interesting at around the 8s mark at this stage.
Okay, we'll go into the grade 2 at 3 o'clock. We've got the Albert Bartlett Novices Hurdle, and we are likely to see Conman John come back again, a horse that impressed at the October meeting, beating Great Fleet, who's franked that form at Kelso at the weekend. 6-4, you've got They Call Me Hugo as well for the Murphy team. I like Reckless Spending at 5-1. I think he's a horse that's potentially got a bit of improvement in him. Conman John. What do you think of him? Like Lucinda's horses, again, they're a bit in and out as well. 6-4, I think he's a one here.
Yeah, he's rated 135 and sets a standard. And I think if he runs to that, he'll win. I think this is poor race. This I really do. I don't think there's much to beat. See Reckless Spending, possibly. They Call Me Hugo, I think, could improve. From he won a winning debut, fine, soft ground over 2.5. I think he looks like a kind of potential stayer. So I think he's the right thing for you. I think that the Stelton horse Carling rig would be interesting if he went. I think Reckless Spain's got a bit to find. But I mean, I think there's a couple in there with potential. But I mean, Corman John, the wee one, imposing Bartlett type horse. His novice form's working out pretty well in behind that. Great Fleet won the weekend at Kelso. Get kind of found out in the race, but that was a race that no drama this end took out. Mm-hmm. So it's a good line of form for the grade, and if you think 135 with £3 penalty, and probably more to come against horses that are just not even raced and near the race that he did the last day in terms of grade. You can't really grumble with it too much. Is anybody really going to bother kind of taking him on up top either? Probably not. He might have to encounter a bit softer ground than normal, but it might dry out as well.
Yeah.
The flip side to what it was the last day. So, yeah, I think you can see why it's kind of a kind of stagnant market, and he's a favourite there. And there's no rush to ride it. There's no real rush to dive in. There's no rush to oppose, and I think they've got the right second favourite in there. And I would rather have Calum as a bigger danger than Reckless spending myself. But he's just kind of coming from nothing the last day as well. So I mean, it's all about potential other ones, and even Corman John's still got a bit of potential.
Mm-hmm.
And he sets a fairly decent standard from the gets, and he gets 3 miles, which a lot of these have yet to prove.
Yeah, there are a couple of other races. We've got a kind of juvenile trial as well. We might see the return of the Derham horse that won the last time at One Horse Town. Doncaster got a listed mares hurdle. Looks Katira's race to win again. Basically, which I think she's priced up as if she's going to win. And there's action at Fairyhouse. We might see a couple of nice ones. It's kind of again. That's obviously we've got the kind of some good racing next week at Ascot, but we are beginning to get into. We'll see the best, a lot of the best horses at Christmas time. Like this is after this weekend, and then Ascot, and then it's all on to Christmas, isn't it? There's nothing really catching out on the Sunday at all. To be honest, there's a nice bumper, but that's it in Navan.
Yeah, that nice big bumper that Gordon Air, like Stinley said, decent one. Yeah, it's kind of a quiet one, and that's just what it's like to Christmas feeling when it's got that burgeoning reputation. But I don't mind it because it allows you to kind of analyse different strands of form and look at things and maybe put numbers and things in marks and you can see where you're going, and there's still some decent enough contests here that's definitely interesting enough over the weekend.
And the dart starts as well, so you can't. There's only so much sport you can watch, so there's plenty to get excited about. Right, we'll go to the Ante-Post kind of folder again. I've had 2 picks, but it's your turn now. You're going to get on the board.
Yeah, this will surprise people, I think. It's for Albert Bartlett.
Okay.
It's 33-1. It's Copacabana, trained by Willie Mullins.
Okay.
Very second in a maiden this weekend. And behind a decent winner, Gordon Elliott's just race fit. It looked a better race than the other one, that Willie Mullins took out. That's got 60-1 chance for Supreme. So in St Balco, I thought that the second one was a better race. It's a race that he had Yasmin Devoy running it last year, took it out, who was the number 1 bumper horse from last year. And this guy wasn't quite the number 1 bumper horse, Bambino Fever, but he's probably number 2 because he's only one he ran at Punchestown along with Bambino Fever, and he was just made to look slow, like he was in the champion bumper, where he was still well fancied, the choice of Patrick Mullins. And he tried to ride him exactly the way Yasmin Devoe was rode, and he was just too slow, boxed on for midfield. Still went off fairly reasonably prominent that day. At Navan, on his debut, he didn't really quicken, he just kind of galloped in bad ground. And on his hurdling debut, I think that's what he kind of did again. But Willie Mullins always said that he's a chaser. But he's going to be a staying novice hurdler. It's interesting, he started him at 2 miles, but he kind of took a lead off the Gordon Elliott horse, made a decent enough move in the second last and last, got there, and then just race fitness kind of told, and he quickened away. But then he tried to box on the line again, and he only get beat by 3/4 of a length. I think that trip was totally inadequate. He jumped really well. He was uncomplicated in behind. And I think there's a lot of evidence in recent seasons of Willie Mullins' horses that have been very, very good, get beat first time out, and second time out, they reimagine themselves. And this horse, okay, get beaten bumpers, but he was bang up there in the pecking order. They know that he's good. The same colours as Jimmy Desoy. There's stamina in his pedigree. He looks like a steer, and given the prices that he went off for high class races in the spring, to me, he's worth a flyer at 33s in Albert Bartlett, because I think that's his race. I don't think he's got gears. And the way he travels through his races, he travels through his races like a class act. He just can't quicken because he's been running over two, and the horse is just quicken past him. I do think there's a lot more in the tank. Is he Yasmin Deville class? Maybe not, but his jumping technique was good. He didn't miss a beat really. A bit tight into one of them, but he made a decent move to get himself outside, and he got there, quite well. It's a horse that I think is probably very good at Gordon Elliott's, and that yard's race fit. Real up for it, and they put 11 lengths between them and the third. And I think Copacabana looked big in the paddock, and he wasn't fancy. He was 10-3, but I thought it was a better performance than it looked. Particularly when I think a lot of Willie Mullins' good novices will definitely need the run. I think it's the kind of year. Remember when Ballyburn was about beating his
Firefox
and left it behind. I think he's kind of that mould. Whether he's that quality, not sure, but you wouldn't need to be in a Bartlett. No. But he looks like a Bartlett horse to me. And I think at the front of the market, where no drama this end is going to go Turners, surely. I would think. Dr. Steinmeierink's good, but not great. 16s, half the price. You've your Elliott horses that are up there at the market because they're fit and they're forward. Say it's never been off higher than he went for 5-1 at Punchestown, 9-2 at Cheltenham. He's high class. He's not going to be 33-1 if he turns up in a Grade 1 at Cheltenham. And I think that this is his race. So to me, I just think it's worth a flyer, because you're getting a lot of these kind of Cormanjonics like 16-20s. For me, I think he can leave that completely. But he's entered up in Christmas in the 2-miler. Whether he goes there, I'm not too sure.
That's another race that's quite interesting. Like, I see Sir Tudo's favourite for that. I'd be astonished if he goes for that.
Sir Tudo looked quicker. I think Sir Tudo's look what price what Sir Tudo was in comparison to what Copacabana was in bumpers last season. Mm-hmm. Copacabana's debut was talked about if no end, but it was just kind of it happened a bit too late going into the festival. Patrick Mullen still picked him, but rode him for a turn of foot that he didn't have.
Yeah,
and again at Punchestown, where they rode him forward, they still travelled really, really nicely into it, but they just scooted past him on the outside because he couldn't quicken with them. Mm-hmm. And I think the way he kind of travels in it, his beaten bumper form looks bad, but I think he's just not been seen to good effect. And I think what he is I think he's a kind of 3-mile grinding hurdler. And I think his technique's actually really good, and I thought he did quite well. He's been hurled, and I think there's a lot of ability and talent there, and I think he could leave it well behind. And yeah, I could see him being in a Bartlett. I don't think he's quick enough for the other two races, and probably not good enough for the other two races. But I think he's got a touch of class that's kept him competitive, and he's very highly regarded from a stable that are unbelievable. And I think that's another big plus is that yard that we'll just fly them in there anyway, see where they're at, and to have that bumper reputation, and then admit in your pre-season, we'll keep him over hurdles because it'll do benefit good for experience. So he's definitely a chaser down the line. To me, I think he'd be doing pretty well to win a 2-mile main hurdle. I think you'd probably see him up and trip. And I think you could maybe see a kind of reformed character like the 2-mile 6 in the DRF, where he just improves from out of recognition. Remember, Yasmin Deville kind of lost his way when he won that race.
Yeah,
as a maiden, he lost his way a little bit, but just going up and trip. I don't think he's that class, but I think he can jump already. So I think he's got. I think he's a right bet, and I think there's a good main hurdle. I don't think we've seen a lot. On my miserable ratings, he's up there with what we've seen so far, my opinion. And he's the one that's got back class and potential. I haven't seen it, and he's a price, and he's with a yard that you would not oppose.
Yeah, I really like that pick as well, and hopefully there's more to come in the coming weeks. Calum, thank you very much as always.
Thanks again. Look
Right,
forward to it.
we will see you all soon. Thank you very much. We'll see you all next week. Thank you.